Welcome to a Thursday edition of In the Know. We are broadcasting live in the Edgemere, a retirement senior living area right here in Dallas. What a beautiful facility. I've driven by this place numerous times. And now I have the pleasure of sitting in the living room of Sam Wyly, which, by the way, we're broadcasting live via Skype. I've got to make sure for the legal stuff. I got to say that so they don't come back and sue me because, they wouldn't get much. But anyway, Sam Wyly, you got a book out. Dallas Got It Right. You wrote this with your daughters and your sons, and just you've got a collection of the history of you in Dallas and kind of why Dallas is such an amazing city. And as we know, each and every year, Dallas is on a top list of places to live, and more people are moving here, more businesses are coming here. And I'm glad, for one thing, thanks for having me in your living room. It's great.
Well, we wrote about Dallas because it's the fastest growing city in America, and we wrote about Frisco because it's the fastest growing town in America. Actually, and part of a big topic for us is all roads lead to Dallas, which is not original with us. Everybody who studied Latin knows that it really came from the Roman Empire. All roads lead to Rome. Anyway, that's part of what we do, in Dallas. Borrow good ideas. Like they teach at Texas A&M architecture that a good architect is a good borrower, but a master architect is a master thief. So anyway, I grew up listening to the radio from Dallas. There was a guy who called himself the Old Scotsman, and he would broadcast what we believed were live baseball games. There weren't any pro teams anywhere south of St. Louis, so we listened to the Old Scotsman tell us play-by-play. That the pitcher's winding up, so it's you hear a whack, because I guess they got sound effects,
So this was all staged. You're telling me this entire game was staged?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. No, this, today we got, you got baseball teams like the Rangers, but we didn't have anybody south of St. Louis. So if you lived in Louisiana, Mississippi, you listened to the Old Scotsman, and he would give you the play-by-play report, And actually, we didn't know it at the time, but this was an imaginary game he was making up from these little telexes he got. And a guy named Ronald Reagan up in Iowa was doing the same thing. He was making up these imaginary baseball games, and ultimately got him elected president.
Maybe that's what you and I should do. Let's talk about your history here in Dallas. I mean, you and your family's been here for a long time. We can go down a laundry list of companies that you've started, which is amazing, and you're very inspirational. Matter of fact, your whole family is very inspirational. But let's talk about your background. You grew up in Northeast Louisiana.
Yeah, it was a small town where my parents had the daily newspaper called the Delhi Dispatch. We also had the Western Union franchise, and you got to have more than one way. If you're in a small town, you got to have sometimes more than one way to make a living. And we were sort of lucky that there was a big oil strike. So instead of just being, dependent on cotton and growing sweet potatoes, we also had we had a whole bunch of oil and yes people coming into town. So we had a great football team because we had a bunch of guys who moved in. We happened to win a state championship. I was a 155-pound nose guard, but I had a monster, Cajun named Duchenne on one side and a non-Cajun named Dupree on the other. But we had 24 guys on the team, and 8 of them got football scholarships, including my late brother Charles. He was our best halfback, and back then you could stay over and play another year if you weren't over 18. So the rest of us talked him into staying over for another year because we'd gotten all the way to the state championship and lost the last game. But so we played that. He stayed over. We got a bunch of really good Cajuns in, and we won state.
and please tell me that you know how to peel crawfish. Obviously, is that a given? Come on.
I know how to do what?
Exactly. You eat crawfish, right?
Crawfish? Well, only because I come to Dallas and everybody thinks everybody from Louisiana eats crawfish. Actually, I did not like them when I grew up.
They're like, what? There's this little bug crawling around the mud. Okay, let's talk about your businesses because you've been involved in a lot of I feel like a very high profile establishments. Let's talk about that.
Well, I was lucky to be sent to boot camp in San Antonio and get trained on some important skills like how to mop the floor and how to march 20 miles a day. But anyway, after boot camp, I came to Dallas because I had an offer from a company called IBM, and they were I admired them because they had a bunch of sharp people and because they came recruiting at Louisiana Tech, and mostly people wanted engineers, but they would take me who hadn't done anything much but in particular. But I came to work for IBM. I was in a nice training class. One guy in the training class was a guy named Ross Perot. So he and I, you might say, graduated from the same months of training on how to work this stuff at the same time. And we, that was 58, I guess it was. And so basically I was trained by IBM I had been trained somewhat up in the University of Michigan, where you get all the theoretical stuff about how you
So
take.
you were in the tech. You were in tech before tech was cool.
Yeah, well, actually, I got interested in the productivity tools because John Deere tractors and Ford cars, have really increased the productivity of all the farm folks out in Louisiana. It was great for the small towns, and we were a part of it by being in the newspaper business and having a telegraph agency. And I learned that I'd get stopped by a train, going somewhere, and I could look at the train cars and see they said UTLX and some number. And I could figure out that one's got crude oil, that one's got butane, that one's got propane, because these were the telegrams that the local petroleum engineers sent to their refineries to say what's on the train coming, whether it's a Baton Rouge refinery or somewhere else.
Right. That's interesting. Sam Wyly is our guest. We are broadcasting live at the Edgemere Retirement Senior Living facility. Talking about his book, Dallas Got It Right. I've seen this book. I've looked at it. We have a mutual friend that let me preview a little copy of it and look at it. Who told you to write this book? I know you got first of all, you had Texas Got It Right. You wrote the first book, but what put a bug in you to write this book?
Well, actually, Laurie and I were working on something that was just a family story that goes back to same sort of folks like your Scots-Irish forebears. I can tell by your last name and your first name that you're what you look like. Redhead and what have you, partly redhead. You look like our Scots-Irish forebears. Anyway, we were working on, Grandma Katie, who got here the same year as George Washington's granddaddy, and other stuff like that. And actually, of course, we get down to where here we are in Dallas. And so then we had, we just had an election. You pick nominees, and the Texas Got It Right book that we did together, Andrew and I did together, it turned out to be the most read book, other than the Bible, by the voters who voted for Trump in the election. Of course, I voted against both Trump and Hillary, but I love the Trump voters in Texas who bought my book.
Of course you like them. You should, yeah, of course. But when we flip through here, it talks about the industries that are in Dallas, because a lot of people think Dallas is just oil. But we have a lot of agricultural, farming, you have food, you have everything.
Yeah, that's
technology.
Yeah, we had started on cotton, and then it came oil, and it came military. We have a lot of stuff like at Grand Prairie. We make the airplanes that teach the bad guys, like in North Korea, Syria, to behave. And so military has been important to Texas and to Dallas for a very, very long time. There's kind of reason places are named like Fort Worth. So.
We're talking to Sam Wyly. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. Plus, we'll talk to some family members here as well. I got Lori, Andrew, and are here as well, and Evan. We're going to talk about this book a little bit more in detail, and why do you think people move here to Dallas? Maybe they're escaping some of the political and economic problems in other states, New York, California. They're all moving to Dallas. Stay tuned. Give us a few minutes. We'll come right back. You listen to 620 AM KEXB, your experts in business. All right, welcome back. 3:32 on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. We're broadcasting live at the Edgemere, courtesy of Skype. I'm talking to Sam Wyly here about his book, Dallas Got It Right. We talked a little bit about his past and growing up in Northeast Louisiana and having chickens and kind of moving to Dallas and getting into technology. And when you talk about the business and the corporate aspect of Dallas and this whole DFW area, we have grown so much. When you first came here, could you name on one hand the amount of big corporate presence there was here in this town?
Well, some of them aren't here anymore, like the Ford plant out in East Dallas. But But there's a whole lot of businesses that have been started here and built up into big businesses. It's a good place for small businesses, but a lot of them have moved in. Like you've had the big Toyotas and what have you who've been moving in, and they're moving in because this is a good place for homes. This is a good place for schools. It's a good place for churches. So people want to go to work where it's a good place to live. Mm-hmm. So there's that's why Dallas is the fastest growing fastest growing city, and why Frisco is the fastest growing town is because they got a lot of good cultural things that people value, and they want to work there, and they move in from California, they move in New York, Chicago, what have you, because really they have a lower cost of living here because of the competitive forces that drive down, like the price of electricity is half in New York City and in Dallas. So that's one reason why people find a lower cost of living compared to other places like Los Angeles or San Francisco or Chicago or New York City. So you get a lot of quality of life for a low cost.
It's interesting to say energy, and we'll get to something because you know a little bit about energy here in a little bit. Toyota did a survey with their employees years ago and said, "What is the American dream?" And the majority of the people responded with owning a home. And so that was one of the key reasons why they picked North Texas, because they felt like if they can provide an opportunity for their employees to, quote, achieve the American dream in buying a home, because let's just be honest. I mean, I lived out in Newport Beach for 10 plus years. At that time, I looked at where I was living and I said, I'm never going to be able to buy a house here and have a family and live, quote, the American dream. So they picked to come here, giving their employees an opportunity to have just what you said, build a house, build a family, and build a community.
Well, it was a great opportunity for an entrepreneur when I was trying to start the company, because I had $1,000 saved and I needed $650,000. So
but you didn't quit though. You kept going.
I kept going. I kept looking to how could I solve problems for some of the big companies like the Stonewall Company or the aerospace engineers, and how could I lower their costs? How could I improve their service? How could I help them solve problems? I figured out for the Stonewall Company, they had a big problem. How do you pump the oil out from underneath Long Beach, California, without Long Beach sinking into the sea? Oh, yeah. So, these guys, I mean, using our computer systems and software, they figured out how to do it.
Yeah. Let's talk about your Green Mountain Energy. Did I get that right? Let's talk about that, because you got into the energy business.
Well, yeah, we were early on. We were trying to do something that would cut down the air pollution and would basically be competitive with the electricity monopolies, who basically the monopolies owned the state legislature, and we tried to do. It's an idea we tried to do in Pennsylvania, but the monopolies basically put us out of business there. We tried to do it in California. Same thing there. The monopolies put us out of business. So we tried it in Ohio, and it was going for a while in Ohio, but then the monopolies got control again. We had big losses in all three of those states. But we came to Texas, and actually in the book we've got a guy named Steve Wollins, who was head of the Democratic House, and I went down to talk to a guy named George W. Bush, Governor Bush, and about deregulation and having competition for green energy. And he said, look, I like competition, but all I can tell you is if you can help Steve Wollins get his bill through the democratically controlled House, the governor's going to sign it. So that's how competition started, and the prices of electricity have gone down, and the air has gotten a whole lot cleaner at the same time. And it's encouraged things like what's really the winner now is the technology that creates the Permian Basin. It's as Andrew and I described it. It's fracking wonderful. It's a combination of technology developed right here in this area, by directional drilling and hydraulic fracturing. We just call it fracking for short. Well, fracking is illegal in New York State, but it ain't illegal in Texas. We love it.
And of course, it's oil, and that fracking is a big part of the economy. Is it like mostly West Texas? Is that kind of where this fracking takes place?
Oh yeah, like Exxon, who's been investing worldwide, is putting all of their capital into West Texas, most people don't know it, but America has now passed up Saudi Arabia and Russia in the production of oil and gas. And the real key is technology developed by the guys basically in Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, the oil states, and that means a lot for uh, most of the product. I mean, it goes through chemical plants, cutting it, turning into a lot of things like toothbrushes or what have you. But the massive exports victory that is coming now is coming out of technology and things developed right here in Texas, and huge investment in West Texas, which is good for roughnecks jobs.
Yeah, there we go. Let's talk before we'll get into Lori, and we'll talk about what it took to kind of put this book together here in just a second. Also, one thing I read on your bio, which by the way, it should be a whole nother book. I mean, your bio is essentially a book. Bonanza, you kind of got behind that restaurant.
Well, it was something I liked. I mean, here it was a bunch of guys giving you steak and potatoes and a salad for $2. I mean, it was just.
Was that what it was back in the day? It was $2?
Yeah, well, actually, we didn't like to acknowledge it, but we'd give you a whole T-bone steak covered the plate. And it would have been a little tough, but we put a little tenderizer on it. It was not something we advertised.
Sneaky little things, you. Sneaky little thing. It was still good.
Actually, we would probably be illegal today.
Yeah, that's true. But let's talk about that. I mean, how did you grow that?
Well, basically, there was a very popular TV show with Hoss and Little Joe and Paul Cartwright, and basically we got Hoss and Little Joe, these guys, to do store openings for us, and the big cities, the metros, we could do ads. In little towns, you just had to have a good steak and potato and salad bar.
That's great. And of course, so marketing became a big part of growing this chain.
Oh yeah, that was a big part, and back then you could get all three of these characters for $100,000 a year. I mean, it would be $100,000 a minute or something now.
And the restaurant industry is very competitive, and as we all know, Dallas has some great restaurants here, and there's some great chains that are based right here in Dallas. So food's definitely a big part of the culture here in Dallas. And we'll also talk about, it's kind of funny when you go outside of Texas and you tell people you live in Texas, people think that we all have a cow in our backyard, right? We all have an oil well in our backyard. So let's on this book here. How do you feel like if someone picks this book up and they read it, what's their takeaway? How do they feel like? What's the image you think is left in people's head when they think about Dallas, Texas?
I think they will understand that Dallas gets it right, and Dallas outcompetes the other big cities because of homes and churches and schools and things that care about and make people want to come to work here. And lower cost of living, it comes like from the price of electricity is half of New York City because of the technology for fracking and what have you that's brought the cost down, so you get lower costs for what people value.
And you think that all the transplants that are coming in from all the other states, and I've said this before, sometimes what people do is they'll come from California and New York, they'll come to Texas, and the first thing they want to do is recreate the chaos they just escaped from the state they left. So they come here for economic advancements and all, just a great place to do business, but then they try to muck it up with legislative garbage that slows and hinders growth and puts more regulations.
Well, one of the great things is the Texas culture. We don't allow the lawmakers to meet all the time like they do in other states. We only allow them to meet every other year, and then they can only do it for 120 days, and then they have to go home. So what happens is that a whole lot of bad bills don't make it. They when the competitive electricity went through, there were 3,000 bills, and there were 300 on the final one that they had to get in by the deadline date. So it makes the lawmakers, rationalize things. It also means we also don't pay them a whole lot of money, so the lawmakers have to have a day job.
They don't pay me a whole lot of money either. I gotta have a day job. I tell you what, right before taking a break, I appreciate it. I know I'm going to give you a little bit of a break because you've been talking for 42 minutes straight, and I certainly appreciate it. You're a brilliant guy, and I'm telling you right now, I'm just sitting here. I could literally sit here pretty much all day and learn from you. I want to bring in, before we go to break, Lori Matthews. Let's come in here real quick and talk about kind of what it took to put a book like this. I mean, and by the way, this is my type of book. As you can probably tell, I'm not really a book kind of guy, but this has a lot of pictures in it, which is really nice. But it does have a lot of stuff that explains the economy, the people, the food, the highway, the transportation. But what did it take to put something together like this?
That's a great question because we really did want to have a lot of pictures and have the pictures tell the story. So Dad and Andrew and I would meet, and Dad would have maybe a current event in mind, or that something that reminded him of something in history, and want to tie it all together. And then we'd try to go find the image that represented that. So it was a lot of gathering of ideas, and then trying to find the image that matches it.
And you go well beyond Dallas. Obviously, I'm looking at a page now. You go out to Possum Kingdom. I mean, because this whole area is huge. I mean, people think of Dallas DFW. For instance, I was at an event last night at Westlake. It was 52.5 miles from my house in McKinney. I thought, my goodness, we're still in like the same DMA here.
Yeah, that's what Dad says is Dallas really is big, and he's really wants people to not be limited by Main Street and Elm Street. Dallas is big. Our Dallas really does encompass that big, large area.
Now, this book was just released. I know you guys had a couple of weeks ago. You had an event that kind of launched this book. What's been some of the feedback from people that's been able to pick this up?
Well, we've had a lot of really good feedback. I think some things people maybe knew about Dallas but forgot, and as they're looking through and seeing the stories and pictures, they're bringing it back to mind. I think some people are learning things for the very first time, and I think that a lot of people appreciate the color and the vibrancy of the book as well.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation with Lori, and we'll learn more about this book and more about this family. And it's great. Now, first, how can people get a copy of this book before we go?
Well, they're out. They're in the bookstores. They're online. If you go online, your favorite shopping spot, they'll have it. Just enter in Dallas Got It Right, and they're in bookstores as well.
There you go. I love that you guys are in brick and mortars, not just on the Amazons of the world. All right, we'll take a break. We are broadcasting live at the Edgemere here in Dallas, and we are talking to Sam Wyly and his family. I love them. 3:44. It's Thursday. Just take tomorrow off. It's going to be nice and sunny, I think. Just take tomorrow. Hey, don't forget, I got Mother's Day ideas coming up as well. Don't forget about Mom coming up on Sunday. Don't wait till the last minute. We'll talk about that when we come back. We're talking to Sam Wyly, Dallas Got It Right, and his family. And I'm learning something in the break. We're going to talk about it, probably one of the going up in college, and I was in college from 88 to 92. This is really before all the computers and, this electronic stuff. So when you type something up and you made a mistake, which I always did, I used liquid paper. And this is great. What a great story.
This is a great Dallas story. There's a woman named Betty Nesmith Graham. She was an executive assistant at Texas Bank. That's the highest a woman could get at that time. And
that's something crazy.
Yeah, that's something crazy. And of course, she would type away. Whenever you made a mistake, then you'd have to start over, rip out the paper, and start again. And she actually had an art background. And at home one night in her kitchen, she pulled out her blender and just kind of mixed up some paint and a couple other things and poured it in a little bottle with her watercolor brush and took it to work the next day. And when she made a mistake, a typo, she just dabbed it on there and let it dry, typed over it, and moved on. And she kept doing that, and her boss never noticed. So she just continued doing it. And soon other secretaries were saying, hey, can you bring me some of that? And so she turned it into a business, just first out of her garage. And she just was, driven by she cared more about the product than making money, but she did develop it into a nice company and ended up selling it to Gillette for $47 million.
Look at that. Started in her kitchen in a blender. Because, don't you remember using it? I mean, everyone had it. It wasn't just a backup and delete on this digital age that we're living in. But this is just one of the examples of the people that have come from North Texas.
Absolutely. It's really the people that make Dallas great. They come here to do great things, or they're from here and go on to do great things.
Okay, the book is rather thick. I mean, it's a heavy cardstock. Rather, it's nice publication. So from the idea to it's on the bookshelves was how long?
It was a year in the making, and actually, Dad would tell you that he was really grateful for a deadline because he's this idea machine. You might have gathered that from visiting with him. And every day I come over, he'd have a new concept he wanted to include. Like, we got to have this in here. But we had a deadline because
It might make a point you just stop talking to Dad because the book never gets done because it's always I do video production and trust me if there's 10 people on this edit then it's going to have 10 different edits and it's like no let's just do one. So you kept adding stuff in the book.
Absolutely. And then at some point, this more reasonable part of Dad takes over, and he equates it to his software days. He says, the text could always keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. But at some point, you just got to get it out. So he knew he wanted to be in the spring book catalog. So he said, okay, we have to be done by January. And so we set a firm date, and we turned it in. And even when it was at the printers, I met with him. He said, I have one more idea. Can we get it in?
No, we can't. And so it's available obviously in stores and online and things like that. But when people read it, like what do you think their takeaway is?
I think just a real appreciation. Well, the beauty of the book, like you mentioned, the photos really are beautiful. And when we first brought it out, someone was equating it to a coffee table book. It's just a beautiful piece. Whether you're from Dallas or you've moved here or you have family who aren't from here but want to know about Dallas, I think it's a real just symbolic of the country as a whole, about just all the can-do spirit that you find here and all those good qualities like good communities, good churches, good families, all those things.
And you know what? When you think about it, and I'm sure you guys fly all the time, it's a great place to fly out of because you can just go, you want to go left, East Coast, left coast, West Coast. It's just kind of centrally located, so it's a great place to do business. And I love Austin, but it's enough farther to the south that doesn't impede on us too much. And when I first moved to Dallas, I went down to Austin just for a day trip, and I walked in this taco place, and it said, "Don't Dallas my Austin." And I didn't get it, and I did not understand what they were talking about. Don't Dallas my Austin. Whatever. So like a couple years into it, I thought, oh, I kind of get it because we are very structured. We're very new, artsy. They're more like, oh, just let it be, let free spirit it. And we're a little bit more controlled in that aspect. At least that's what I got out of it. But it's a fantastic book. It is an amazing documentary of just how great the city is. And we all know it. We all know how great Dallas is. When you meet people and you tell people you're from Dallas and you live in Dallas, they go, oh, what a great city.
There's another story you remind me of about Anita Martinez. It's like, talk about, where you have this sense of like art and culture, but then you do something with it. We're not so laid back. We like to do something, whether it's reaching out to help or serve or create a business or something.
Remember North Texas Giving Day? That this, what was it? Was it $32.8 million in 24 hours? And the majority of that money comes from North Texas.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing that just the people here, just that they just get behind their word and they do things.
Yeah, they do things. Well, I want people to do one thing, is get this book. It's amazing. And while you're at it, get Texas Got It Right as well. Dallas Got It Right. It's a great pictorial book, and it kind of goes over the history and all the roads. And think about this. I saw the other day somebody was talking about the show Dallas, and they had an old clip, and it was a flyover, and it was 75 looked like a 2-lane Custard Road in Collin County. It was just a 2-lane road before it really became like this connector up to Oklahoma.
Yeah, actually, the show Dallas is representative of this book, too, because you think about it, it's known worldwide, the show, yet it took place, the South Fork is located in Parker, which is not Dallas, so Dallas really is bigger.
Yeah, and then initially the pilot was shot at the Brinkman Ranch in Frisco, which is one of the largest ranches still like in the city, a huge piece of property off of Maine and Preston Road, pretty much. It's gigantic. But they shot a pilot there, and the landlord, the guy that owned the property, didn't want all these Hollywood people there, and really ran them off. And then that's when they end up going to that location. So what a great story there, and it's just a great book. And I know we've got some other people to talk to, and it's white. How do you? Your dad. He's like a mind idea. He's like a walking legend.
You know what? Bringing up Dad in regard to like Larry Hagman, he told me that Larry Hagman's mother was Mary Martin, who grew up in Weatherford, Texas, and she was a Broadway star. She was the first Peter Pan. The roots are right here in Texas.
There's so much stuff right here in Texas. All right, we'll continue this conversation at 4 o'clock hour plus Alicia Bush. We'll call in and talk about fundraiser tonight, Treasured Vessels, happening up in McKinney at the Tubbs Brewery. Of course, They fight sex trafficking and trying to get the girls off the streets and into a safe environment. And I've been with her since day one, almost on this foundation. So we're going to talk to her about the fundraiser, and then we'll kind of recap the stories again. Obviously, a lot going on in Hawaii with the volcano. It's beautiful. You've been to Hawaii?
I have one time been to Hawaii.
Well, I don't think anybody in Hawaii would write a book, Hawaii Got It Right. I really don't. It's not like Texas. Texas, we got it right. Anyway, I love this book. Once again, how can people get the book?
You can get it online or in a bookstore.
Can you go online, like being
Amazon?
Okay.
Yeah, or I think any book retailer online will have it.
All right, wonderful. All right, we'll continue this conversation after the break, and you can always look us up on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Give us a few minutes. We'll come right back. Welcome back to a Thursday edition of In the Know 404 on this beautiful day. Let's just stamp this thing out. Not too hot, a little bit of breeze out there, so it's kind of nice. Of course, we got a little bit of rain moving in just in time for Mother's Day. Just a slight chance on Sunday, which, by the way, do not wait to the last minute to buy Mom something like I usually typically do. We are broadcasting live from the Edgemere here in Dallas, right off of the Northwest Highway. Beautiful retirement area. We've been talking to Sam Wyly. We talked to Lori Matthews as well. And the book is called Dallas Got It Right. Just came out not too long ago, a couple months ago, maybe about a month or so. Yeah, a couple weeks ago. That really. And it's all celebrating Dallas. It's all about Dallas. It's the people, the places, the culture that makes this place so special. And they've done a fantastic job about that. We're going to talk to Andrew here in a second and talk more about this book. But what's making news is overnight. My wake up time generally is about 4 a.m., 4:15. And as I woke up, first thing I do is turn my phone on. I do turn it off when I go to bed because I don't want it going off. I don't want to be tempted to check it. So I turn it on, and bam, the news headlines: American hostages released from North Korea. They're there. I mean, President Trump had a press conference in the wee hours of the morning, for crying out loud. I mean, it was stunning to me because you would think something this big should be, I would be grandstanding like you would not believe. I would have sent out a mass release saying at 10 o'clock this morning I'm going to have a major announcement, and I would have done this whole thing with fireworks and the whole bit. But no, it was just him in a dark tarmac somewhere, and with him and the First Lady. So anyway, they're out. But it's really interesting how you'll see some headlines out there that almost turn this thing into a non-celebratory event. And they politicized it. And it's almost like, why can't we just be happy that these people that have been locked up and held hostage for, I think 2009, that they're out. But anyway, we're glad they're out. You'll see all the footage on social media. Just check it out. It's there. And also this Hawaiian, you heard it in SRN News before the show, this volcano that's just been going off for, I guess, maybe 5 days now, I think. Now, the latest, I mean, my God, if molten lava shooting up in the air, falling into your yard, catching your house on fire, if rocks just piling on top of each other, pushing down the street. We saw the video of that Ford Mustang just getting sucked up. But now we're going to probably have the ultimate hailstorm, as now their scientists are saying, well, we're going to have large rocks being shot up in the air and come down, like anywhere from a softball to soccer ball and bigger sized rocks coming down. So my goodness, and combine that with all the gas and all this, what a situation there. But this place has been known for, it's been a hot spot, right? It's not like this came out of nowhere. They knew this would happen, which makes you think this for a second. When you think about hurricane season, which kicks off June 1st, we all know it's coming. We can eye the storms, and I grew up along the coast long enough to know that when a storm comes, you kind of eye it, you kind of look at it, you track it. Which back in the day we didn't have the electronic tracking. You actually mapped it on a hurricane tracking chart that you picked up at the grocery store. But you had some time to prepare. These guys don't really have a whole lot of time to prepare. A little bit of steam comes out of the ground, and next thing you know, oh look, Aunt Betty, we've got fire, and it's just like run. So that's just something that's we all need to keep in our prayers. Also, Ford's halting the production of F-150, just a slight problem. Oh, nothing. And one of our parts assembly plants caught on fire, which puts a delay on stuff. So that's going to be a halt to that truck. Best Buy has a new logo. I'll put it up after the show. You can take a look at it, or just Google Best Buy new logo. You'll see it. I don't particularly like it. I like the old one, but I'm not really one for change like that. And then Alexa is being installed in some new homes. I don't think I want my home to be that technologically advanced. I don't think I want everything recorded. I'd rather just be able to turn the lights on and have a nice AC unit here in Texas, and I'm good. And then lastly, 4 out of 10 drivers say they text and drive. I think it's more like 9 out of 10. It's everywhere. You just see it. I mean, most of the time you're in traffic on the freeway, you're only going about 10, 15 miles an hour anyway. So if you look over left and right, everyone's head is down. Everyone's staring at their phones. And at night, it glows up in your face, so you know everyone's doing it. I don't encourage it at all. I think it's very dangerous. And it is, by the way, car accidents are the number one killer for teens. It's not suicide. It's not drugs. It's car accidents. So you got to be aware of that. I want to bring in Andrew Wyly here, part of the family here, part of putting this whole book together. Dallas got it right. It's big and thick. It's got some pictures, and I like it. And of course, you guys have done a phenomenal job of telling the story of Dallas.
I'm very excited about this book. This is my second book that I wrote with my father, Sam. We originally wrote Texas Got It Right, and he really enjoyed that process, and he really wanted to add more content. There was so much stuff that didn't make it in a book. We didn't want to write a very long book, you see. So
when you talk about Texas Got It Right, I mean, you look at the entire state. I mean, was that harder to write than this one? I mean, at least now you're just talking about Dallas.
Oh, I thought it was. I mean, the whole state. There's so much to say about the state, and there, we talked about Houston, we talked about San Antonio, we talked about everywhere, and so the biggest challenge writing Dallas Got It Right was trying to figure out what Dallas was, and a lot of it came out of the material that was in Texas Got It Right. We wanted to write a sequel, and we couldn't really write Texas Got It Right too. You don't write books like that, really. At least I haven't seen one saying this is part two, Revenge of the Sith. Anyways, Revenge of the Sith was a great movie. So here we got Dallas Got It Right, and of course we're talking beyond Dallas, like the metro area, the border, that's what became this book. I started writing down everything my dad wanted to say, and we sort of created an outline around that, and eventually we got, this is the outcome of all that.
Eventually you got the book right. So where do you start when you get this outline? Now, and it's interesting because you go, okay, Dad, where do you want to start with this book? Do we start with the infrastructure? You've got, like, I'm looking at a picture right now. Is it the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge? I've said that correctly? Where do you start when you write a book like? Do you start with the people, the culture, like the weather? I don't know. Because the weather here, by the way, my parents have been here about 2 months. They said, is it always this windy? I go, pretty much.
Well, you know what? I got a lot. You said that people think that Dallas is full of cows. It used to be full of cows. It's not so much full of cows today, but I get a lot of people who the first thing they ask when they've never been to Dallas before is, where is the desert? Because they get the idea of movies in Texas, and they expect to see nothing but like cacti. And here we have this big, huge city with skyscrapers and bridges and so on. The Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge is our latest and biggest bridge that we've had. It crosses the Trinity River, which goes through Dallas, and it replaced the bridge right next to it.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of that bridge, but yeah, they literally, and I would drive across 30 and watch the construction of this bridge forever, and the pieces the arches would be put in place. Believe me, it jacked up traffic for like a year and a half of my Channel 8 career, going to and from Fort Worth and to Dallas. But the architecture is a big part. I mean, Dallas was voted best international skyline not too long ago. That's pretty huge.
And it's also really revitalized the Oak Cliff area too, in the Trinity River area, and so I'm very impressed by what it's done lately.
So take me through this book real quickly. Like, is there chapters? Is it broken down by people, events?
Well,
Because it's one of these books that's it's easy to read because I was flipping through it and I'm kind of like a if I see a squirrel I'm like, oh, squirrel. I start to look at it. So it is kind of broken up by the early years. There you go. The early years, the education, which by the way, we've got some top brand universities here in this area. You got SMU. You got, which if I'm not mistaken, you guys are big fans of SMU, right? Or because there's a red Mustang on the wall over there. That's why I know it's there. The SMU, TCU, and then UTD is another one. So we got great education here as far. And then when you think about the farming and the ranching and just the cattle, and of course I'm looking at the Fort Worth Stock Show is a big thing here. And you got the cattle drive every single day. I think at like 10 a.m. you got that. There's just so much to do, and this area is so diverse. And then of course you've got uptown Dallas. Which has a different feel altogether with all the high rises and things like that. So it's just amazing. We're up against a break. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue to talk about Dallas got it right. I think they did. Andrew Wyly got it right. Lori Matthews and Sam Wyly got it right as well. Evan's here too. He got it right. He's over there just taking pictures. So Dallas got it right. We are broadcasting live from the Edgemere here in Dallas. Beautiful facility. So if you're looking to retire, which, you know what, I want to retire right now. I don't think I can afford maybe a day inside this place. But anyway, if you're looking to retire, go hit them up on Edgemere. Go Google them. I don't know what the website is, but just find out. It's a pretty cool place. 4:15. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. 4:19 on this beautiful day. We are broadcasting live from the Edgemere, courtesy of Skype. Go to skype.com. We're talking about Dallas got it right. I've got the one and only Sam Wyly here with me. I'm actually sitting in his living. He's got me with him. I don't have you with me. You could toss me out at any second. I have no right to be here, but I'm glad that you've allowed me to stick around and talk about the story of Dallas and just how what a great city it is. And really from a technology standpoint to a farming standpoint to a cultural standpoint to entertainment. I mean, obviously Dallas, and there were some other shows that were shot here. I asked you earlier, you grew up in Northeast Louisiana. You grew up in a kind of an oil town, oil, and you had chickens. A very, very kind of a humble beginning, I guess you could say. But when you came to Dallas, I asked you earlier, when you got here, what was Dallas like, and who was here? And you've got an answer for that.
Well, we were the biggest cotton gin manufacturer in the company, and since that's all gone somewhere else, Dallas had to figure out in technology something else to do other than make cotton gin. So we did things like semiconductors and steakhouses, And
which ironically, you brought up a great lead-in for coming up at 4:45. Alicia Bush from Treasured Vessels is calling because they're doing a fundraiser up at Tupp's Brewery, which is from a cotton gin. It's one of the it's like a 150-year-old cotton gin they redid for a beer brewery. So good segue there, Sam. I appreciate that. But let's talk about the book though. Kind of what the thought process of Dallas got it right. Of course, you wrote Texas got it right. Why not wrote U.S. got it right? Why just might as well keep on going up?
Well, actually, I realized that the same thing that happened, that was attracting me to Dallas a long time ago is still going on. It's attracting people from not only all of America but all over the world, and it's a very competitive place, and it's relatively speaking, low level of regulation, low level of tax costs, and basically non-productive overhead than you have in most big cities in America and in most more Karl Marx-oriented countries in the world. Karl Marx-oriented cities in America or states in America, like New York State, for instance. The price of electricity is twice as much as in Dallas because they forbid competition. No fracking.
No fracking. Of course, fracking is a big part of this state. It's pretty fracking good. It's what I think it's what we said earlier. But let's go back to your beginnings as a businessman. I mean, you've had your hands in several really huge companies.
Well, one of the things that I after I'd done the computer stuff, which gave me some wealth because this we took the stock public just about 2 years after we started. Actually, year that Laurie was born, and stock doubled in the first year, and it tripled on the second year, and then it went up 7-1 on the third year. So we because of the what's driving things like Apple and Google and what have you today, it was driving us back then, because and part of what we were doing was creating a digital network, which because then the monopoly plant for telephones was totally analog, which was good, which was good for talking on the phone, but was not good for computers just talking to each other. And that was the big new thing that we did, was to create a digital network, which is laid the basis for what we call the internet today.
Amazing. We're talking to Sam Wyly. I'm in his home here at Edgemere, talking about Dallas. Dallas Got to Write the book, and of course, technology is a big part of that book. Let's talk about the infrastructure and just a way to get around Dallas. I know I told you earlier that I talked to a businessman. He felt like the Frisco area would be central Dallas metro, that there's still a ton of growth to go north, Prosper, and places up like that. Do you feel like that is still kind of like the future of Dallas, Fort Worth?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, it's a heavily a North Texas growth, and it's got kind of so that Oklahoma's just kind of a northern neighborhood, and so and Frisco is the fastest growing town in America. So, but people, for the same reasons we talk about that I came to Dallas, and that people are coming here from California and New York, and people are coming here from China or wherever. It's because it's a good place to work and it's a good place to live.
Good people here, right? Now let's talk about some of the other ventures you've been in. Bonanza, which I don't know why I'm fascinated about that. Maybe because I have a little bit of restaurant background. Let's talk about your venture with Bonanza.
Well, we use these guys like Paul Cartwright and Hoss and Little Joe. Actually, Hoss and his brother had two Bonanzas in Lubbock, and part of what we feature in the book is towns from places like Pampa and what have you. And actually, you talked about we have a great staff that work here at the Edgemere, and these guys are doing the same thing. These guys and girls are doing the same thing. A lot of them working two jobs, and there's a couple of guys who work here this summer from W.G. Wilson, and they're one of them is already going to Texas Tech, and he's the first family member to ever go to college. The other guy is in W.B. Woodrow, and he's making summer work because he wants to go to Texas Tech.
Yeah. The grit of Dallas Texans up here. What is your favorite part in this book? If there's one page that Sam Wyly wants to turn to, is there any particular section in this book that's your favorite?
Well, I get to associate with a guy who was really important to building Dallas, a guy who decided to come from Brooklyn here, and his parents decided to come from Sweden to Brooklyn, a guy by the name of Eric Johnson, and he was one of the founders of Texas Instruments. And we have his picture where Eric, as the mayor of Dallas, is sending the first digital message across the Atlantic, from our University Computing Center to the center we've got in London, where he's the receiver of that message is the Lord Mayor of London. So we have both Lord Mayors going back and forth digitally for the first time.
That's cool. Yeah. And of course, Lori shared some little tidbit, little nugget of knowledge with me earlier when you were gone, that the liquid paper developed right here in North Texas, in Richardson, I believe.
Yeah. It was actually, there was a lady who went to the same church that my daughter Lisa and I go to down in Oklahoma, but she she got some help from, I guess, a high school teacher, and she was working down at Texas Bank, and she had a problem of all of us who were around long enough to have typed on typewriters, and she's a terrific story.
Yeah, it's a great story of innovation and entrepreneurs here in Dallas. A lot of entrepreneurs in here in Dallas, right? Great place to start a business.
It's a very good place to start a business, just because competitive city has managed to create an awful lot more stuff based on Karl Marx rather than stuff based on Thomas Jefferson and Adam Smith.
There you go. We got to take a break. 4:27 on this Thursday afternoon. My goodness, the sun's out. It's shining. What a great time to go pick up Dallas Got It Right. Pick it up online, Amazon, things like that, or just go to your favorite bookstore or place that typically has books, and you'll probably see it. And while you're there, just get Dallas Got It, Texas Got It Right too, and just pick that up and give it to Mom for Mother's Day. Why not? It sounds like a good plan. All right, give us a few minutes. We'll come right back. Also, Alicia Bush is coming up at 4:45. Stick around. all roads lead to Dallas. I think that Sam had said it earlier, all roads lead to Rome, I think is what he said. But we're changing that. All roads lead to Dallas. I'm going to talk to Lori Matthews once again. Now let's talk about the music and the culture and the arts that makes up Dallas. Some people may not think, when they think about music in Texas, they automatically think of Austin, I think. And they've done a great job marketing their festivals. Is pretty much why they do that. But music was in Dallas well before Austin.
Absolutely. I saw you shaking your finger. That's true. Emphatically so. That was emphatically so. Music was in Dallas first. Yeah, the origins really were here down in the Deep Ellum area, and starting with kind of jazz and back in the 20s. And Dad and I were talking about, the different music artists that he knows of his genre. He would listen to Elvis. It's from in our area too, Scott Joplin. And then contemporaries now, people who know Kelly Clarkson. I mean, she's from Burleson,
Burleson.
Or Selena Gomez. She's from Garland, There's a wonderful musician named Erica Badu, and she was a graduate of Booker T. Washington, which is a performing arts school, the Arts Magnet School at the ISD. So there's a lot of wonderful talent here. And I was reminded also about just the whole development with arts districts, with the plays and the museums, the Woodall Rogers Park.
Oh my goodness!
There's so much green space in Dallas.
Yeah, there is. The other day, I was doing an interview, and this gentleman's name, his first name was Clyde, and his last name was Warren, Clyde Warren. And I thought, I just like the park. That's right. But that's a very creative green space they have there. That's very innovative. When I first moved to Dallas, that was one of the first things I'm driving. I'm going, did I just go under a park? Like, it's just really weird. But let's talk about the art real quickly, because you got places like Deep Ellum that have kind of seen a resurgence. Because for a while it did take a dip, and I think that's just what every area does. It goes through a cycle of kind of it just has to flip over a little bit. But the arts is a big part of the city.
Absolutely. Do you think that's maybe part of the creative process, that kind of flipping like that? It could be, definitely.
And you've got places like the Bomb Factory that they kind of got that building and redid it. And of course, there's just so much down there. But then now you have, if you want to look at the new stuff, you have Big Beat Dallas, you have Toyota Music Factory, you got all the stuff happening in Arlington, you got Fort Worth. So when it comes to like kind of putting a bow around all of the entertainment in Dallas and this whole area, we got a lot. And we have a lot. So if you're a musician, the thoughts of, I'm going to go off to Los Angeles and make it big. Yeah, good luck there, because there's a gazillion people there that are trying to launch their careers. You can go to Nashville, which you have a better chance. But to be honest with you, if you want to stand out, come to Dallas. It's a great platform, and you can still get the attention I think you need.
I agree 100%. There's just so much creativity and support, and just that spirit to, if you want to make it, just go for it.
Yeah. Do you guys talk about food in this book at all? Because I think food's a big part of Dallas. I mean, Tex-Mex and El Phoenix just celebrated 100 years. I don't care what business you're in. If you're doing business for 100 years in the restaurant business, you're doing something right. Because God forbid, we've all been there. You can spend thousands of dollars to market a customer, and if you bring their chips and they don't like the chips one time, they never come back. So, but the food's a big part of the city.
Food is a big deal, and it's a very international mix of things too. But we do have El Phoenix in the book. Interesting you should bring that up. We have it in through a woman named Anita Martinez, who's married to the son of the founder. She was the first Mexican-American Dallas City Council member.
Wow.
Yeah, she served from 69 to 73.
And don't you think Reunion Tower, I'm sure Reunion Tower's in this book. It's on the front. Well, there you go. No, it's not. But, well, that's the... You got the big Bank of, well, let's talk about this for a second. You got the Bank of America, the big green building, which Dallas had got the best international skyline a few years ago. And I love the fact that every building in downtown Dallas, for the most part, lights itself up. Like did everyone just get the email that said, hey, effective like 6 months from now, we want you to put lights in the building?
Yeah, well, I think it maybe started with that iconic Pegasus. Remember that neon red Pegasus? That was the first sight Dad had when he drove into Dallas in the 50s. Yeah, it's like...
Good sight to have, right?
Yeah, you can see the
Yeah, you can see the flying red horse. So okay, anything we left out in this book that we haven't addressed? Oh my, how did I do in sports? Wow. Okay, this is a sports town. Now I'm going to say, as of lately, it hasn't really been a very good sports town, but it's okay, because I'm the kind of fan that I'm going to support you if you're 0-16 or you're 16-0. It doesn't matter. But sports is a big part of Dallas, and you call it Lamar Hunt. You know, the original, if I'm not mistaken, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Texans, if I'm not mistaken. There you go.
Yeah, exactly right. I hadn't known that. Dad taught me that Lamar Hunt, we wouldn't help us have the NFL as it is today because no teams had existed this far south. And so he had the Dallas Texans, just like you said. And we have a picture in the book that you won't find anywhere else. It's from the private Hunt family collection. And it's through a relationship with my brother and the Hunts that he was able to attain this picture that you can find in the book.
And of course, you got the Texas Rangers baseball, big dynasty here, and then the basketball, the Texas Legends, which you guys have a little part of that. I thought that was really cool. I learned earlier.
Yeah, my brother co-founded the Texas Legends up in Frisco. Think about 4 or 5 years ago. 10 years ago?
10 years
oh
ago.
my gosh, it's gone so fast. But it's so much fun to watch a game there. It's so family friendly and lots of wonderful activity, and they play so well. Their hearts are so into it. And I believe this year Mark Cuban bought the majority ownership. So it's definitely important for the Mavericks to be looking at these guys that are developing into the wonderful players.
And like to your point, it is good family entertainment, and it's a good value because let's just be honest, you can go see the Mavericks play, and you're gonna, not to put anything about that, but there's a seat for every saddle. There's a saddle for every seat, I guess you could say, and that's a perfect example of how not everyone's built for the major league sports. That these secondary developmental leagues are just as quality performance. Entertainment wise, it's all there. The venue, the players, the cheerleaders, all the hype, it's all there like any major sport. Okay, there's the golfers. Oh yeah, we got Jordan Spieth, right?
Yeah, he's from here. He went to Jesuit High School, and also Lee Trevino, Dad was telling me, was from this area as well. So from way back to even to today, you got the golfers.
And we got amazing golf courses. Now I don't even want to claim I play golf because that would be it'd be a dig on the golf game in general to call me a golfer, but we have amazing course here in North Texas, and of course amazing hotels like the Four Seasons. Got they had the Byron Nelson forever before it just moved to their new course out in I think South Dallas area. So yeah, amazing golf courses, amazing venues. What did you think? I'd love to get Sam's opinion on this. Whenever Jerry Jones built that spaceship out there in Arlington, that people had to say, why is he spending that much money? And he's a freaking genius when you look at it, because he's able to multi-purpose that facility for so many different things other than Dallas Cowboy football.
It's really amazing the things that he's put on there. Like we went to see Taylor Swift a few years back with my high school daughter. Yeah, of course. Be bopping around. Every girl and Ryan.
I will say this though. This is funny because and the first time I saw her, it was at the Toyota Center in Houston, and then it was the LSU Stadium in Baton Rouge, and then here. And people was like, "Why did you go?" I said, okay, well, it is an amazing performance, but it's nothing like seeing a Taylor Swift performance and your daughter smiling. She's a very good idol in that. All right, the book is amazing. Dallas got it right, and you can get it in your hands. Simply go online. You can search Dallas Got It Right. Go to Amazon. Go to your favorite bookstore. You can pick it up. It's a tremendous book, and you guys have spent well over a year, and his whole life. Getting all this information, and Sam's an amazing gentleman. The whole family, you guys are just like I feel like I don't deserve to be in this room right now. I don't have the intellectual ability to be in this room right now, but it's certainly an awesome book, and I think has a mayor of the people seen this book, like the city council and things like that?
I don't believe the current mayor's seen it, although Laura Miller came to our book launch event. She was there in the audience.
Nice.
Yeah, she saw it.
I'm sure she got it right too. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk to Alicia Bush from Treasured Vessels about a foundation event tonight going on at Tufts that helps girls get off the streets from sex trafficking and get into these tiny houses that she's building. And they've had tremendous success. I met her at North Texas Giving Day about a year and a half ago, and this was just a thought, really. And now it's reality. And they're doing it, and they're raising a ton of money. And they got an event tonight that's in a 150-year-old cotton mill. I was there the first day they poured beer out of that. That was my live shot for Channel 8. They were like, "Where are you going to go?" I said, "I'm going to a brewery." Yeah, sure you are. They made fun of me. But that's tonight. We'll talk about that. Then we'll kind of wrap up this whole thing here with the Wyly family. We're doing it at the Edgemere here in Dallas, 442. Don't go anywhere. I'll come right back. Let's wrap up. What a great day of all of this, because this is phenomenal. Dallas got it right. Lori Matthews here to say goodbye and kind of parting words with this book. And I know that's it's something that even if you just moved to Dallas last week or you've been here your whole life, pick up this book.
Thank you, Brian. It's a real celebration of Dallas. It's a beautiful book, and I really think that everyone will like it.
Yeah, and we all know the economy is growing, and Frisco's blowing up, and of course, all these surrounding areas are really benefiting from the push that's coming out of Dallas with technology and all these little think hubs and the WeWorks of the world to try to get these people together to form companies and business. And of course, real estate. Hello, we really haven't even talked about real estate. It's always on top of the list.
Absolutely. We got another story in the book about Allie Beth Allman. It's a real wonderful Dallas story, too, where she grew up in Graham, Texas, and came to her first sold house was to Tom Landry's family.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she got her start there. She was good at it, and they said, you should pursue this.
Well, I think she turned out being pretty darn good at what she did. Yeah, so what else you got?
Well, my husband has a company called RevTech, and it's an accelerator, and that really is a lot about mentoring and growing new ideas and new companies. RevTech.
Okay,
yeah.
Where's that at?
It's located here in Dallas at Walnut Hill and 75.
Okay, website?
Website revtechaccelerator.com.
Oh, I love accelerators. I love think tanks like that, because that look, if I would have had these tools and I got out of college, look, there's no telling. I would, who knows what would happen. But now kids have so many more tools. I say kids, everybody, business owners
2 minutes.
have so many more tools to make it happen.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see just that collaboration and mentors who have done well and are ready to give back, and then the up-and-comers that just want to learn.
Yeah. Dallas Got It Right is the book, and while you're at it, get Texas Got It Right as well. I mean, you guys, now up next is the U.S. Got It Right. Well, why not, right? Because we Texas kind of marched to a different set of rules. You've seen that meme that there's Texas, and then there's everyone who's not Texas.
That's so true. But Texas definitely has something right, and I think America can learn from it too.
Oh,
and America got it right. If you look in the grand scheme of things, America does have it right as well.
We do have it right. We have Judeo-Christian values, which separates us from a lot of the chaos in the world. It's been great. I just love talking to you guys. Thank you so much. And please, go to the bookstore, Amazon, go to your local Barnes and Nobles will probably have it in there. Even some of these grocery stores that have books, go pick it up and do that.
1 minute.
Because it's just tremendous that if you want to learn about the history of Dallas, you just thumb through this thing. You've got everything from the industry to the people to the roads to everything. We still need to build better roads. We need more roads. Traffic here is horrible. Dallas got the traffic right. We missed the traffic, actually, is what happened.
We do have some traffic, not as bad as some of the other big cities, but you're right. There's always room for improvement.
Always room for improvement. All right. Well, that just about wraps up today's broadcast here at the Edgemere. By the way, if you plan on retiring, the Edgemere did not pay me to say this, and I have no idea, but just Google them, and you Google the Edgemere Dallas, and then you'll rethink your retirement plans, because it's really, really nice. As always, go to my Facebook page at Brian Glenn TV, 620 AM, as well on Instagram and Twitter. Follow us. Go to our website, 620am, KEXB.com for more information on this show.
5
and other
seconds.
shows on this fine radio network. We'll see you back here tomorrow.